All right, folks, so here we are. We are nearing the end. So today is Wednesday, June 10th. Tomorrow is our last graded assignment, and that is our ecology test. It's going to be open and available for anyone to complete. You're going to get one shot at it. It's going to automatically need you to log in as your norwichcsd.org account, and it will take that data once you're done. Um, you'll get one shot at it. Not too bad. 25 questions, all multiple choice. And it will be available from tomorrow, Thursday morning at about 11 o'clock. I will unlock the form and it will be available. And that will continue until Tuesday. So that's over the weekend until Tuesday, the 16th. And in which case, then it will lock again at about 11 in the morning. So people are going to have, 4 or 5 days to get the test done. Keep in mind, your final project is also due next week on Monday. After the test tomorrow, I will not be having instructional classes again for the remainder of the school year. So that means Thursday for the test, I'll be here in case people want to go over something before they take it. Then Friday, Monday, Tuesday, I will be here online, but I am only going to be here to answer questions, to help people with assignments that they are having issues completing. That is going to be it. So, don't expect a lot of new stuff. I am here to try to make sure that everybody who needs to can finish this year successfully because we are down to the final few days. We have literally 1 week, 7 days left for people to get all their work in. So, with that said, today's goal is to practice ecology questions, to go through the stuff that you should know. We did like a slideshow of it yesterday. Today, what I want to do is I want to be able to give you sample questions. So, we're going to do that just by going through on this. So, here is a food web. Now, I could ask you many things about this food web. So, let us imagine, actually, you know what? You're on this slide. I'm going to exit back a little bit. So imagine that I were to remove the shrew, right? No more shrew. Shrews are gone. What would you expect to happen to the hawk population? Now remember, for all population questions, it's going to be one of three answers. Will they increase? Will they decrease? Or will it stay the same? So if I remove the shrew, that box no longer exists. There is no longer that connection between the grasshopper to the snake or to the hawk. What is going to happen to the hawk population? Increase, decrease, or stay the same? The best answer is going to be decrease because they lost a food source. The shrews aren't there anymore. One of the things that they normally eat is now gone. All right, so let's imagine that we change things around a little bit. All right, now I get rid of the rabbit population. Now I want to know what's going to happen to the deer population over here. Will they increase, decrease, or stay the same? Remember, everything in a food web is a balancing act. So when you take stuff away from one side, you got to take a look at how it's going to affect. But in this case, if we remove the rabbits, what will happen to those deer? The best bet would be that the deer population will increase because there is no longer the rabbits eating the shrubs. So now the shrub population will go up, which means more food for deer, which means more deer. Now let's take a look at a food web that's a little bit. Let me grab this box. That's a little bit different than one that we're familiar with. All right, so we take that box and we get rid of fish. How is that going to affect the penguin population? So we get rid of fish over on the left hand side. What's going to happen to the penguins? The penguin population will decrease. Why? Because now the leopard seal is missing a food source. So it means that he needs to eat more seagulls and he needs to eat more penguins. So the penguin population will go down. Now, why am I asking these questions, going over this? Because nobody took the practice quiz yesterday. Now, if you're saying to yourself, well, it wasn't working, remember, when you take a look at these, this is yesterday, here's the quizzes eco review. If you just click on it, yeah, it doesn't. But if you click this little box in the upper right hand corner that expands it out, everything works just the way that it should. So keep those things in mind. All right. Getting used to how these populations will affect each other is an integral part of ecology. All right. So let's try one more with this marine one. Let's say we get rid of the crabs. Disease wipes them all out. What's going to happen to the elephant seal? Increase, decrease, or stay the same? Follow the arrows. Remember, the arrows indicate energy flow. This one, there is only one possible answer. So if we remove the crabs, the elephant seal population will decrease. Why? It's going to go down because the elephant seals only eat squid. The squid only eat crabs. With no crabs, there will be no squid. With no squid, there will be no elephant seals. Hope you guys are starting to get the idea of how these steps work. I would suggest trying some practice. And then tomorrow, if you're still having difficulty with it, come back at 11 o'clock when we sit down to go over things before I unlock the test, because there might be some that are useful to you. All right, this is a food chain, right? What is being shown by this blue sweep? What is that showing the moving, the transfer of? So that blue line is the movement of what? Energy, yes. That is the movement of energy. How is that blue line incorrect based on that diagram, though? There's something about that blue line that doesn't make sense when you take into account how energy moves through an ecosystem. So, how is that blue line wrong? Yes, absolutely correct. As it steps through each one, remember, energy goes down, not up. This blue sweep makes it look like it starts small and then it gets bigger and bigger, and that's not the case. This should be the other way around, because when we take a look at an ecological pyramid, remember, whoever has the most has the largest slice. So when we take a look at one of these pyramids, the producers at the bottom have the most of everything. They have the most energy. They have the most population. They have the most biomass. As you move up, we see energy being lost as heat flowing out into the atmosphere. And by the time we get up to the top, to those top predators, we see they have a much smaller piece than the producers did. So remember, for all of the ecological pyramids, it's all about the size of the slice. Obey that before you try to do any other reasoning. Where has the least energy? The top. Where has the most? The bottom. Who has more energy? The primary consumers or the secondary consumers? Just look at the size of the slice. The biggest slice to the biggest slice. And the primary consumers will have more energy than the secondary consumers. What is another word for primary consumer? How else could we describe all of these critters that are here? They are all what? It's related to exactly what you see happening here. There are lots of terms for ecology that we need to know. So, our primary consumers, just like our producers, are also our autotrophs. Our primary consumers are heterotrophs. And what kind of heterotroph? Well, if you take a look, remember, these guys are eating these guys. So they're herbivores. They're eating plants. One moment, it looks like we're about to run out of space. So I need to delete a couple of videos if my computer would hurry up. Okay. So, with that said, we take a look here. And here we see our groundhog, gopher, no, not gophers, prairie dogs. There we go. What would this be an example of? What kind of interaction between different organisms would this one be? There's a number of different possibilities that you can go with here. Now, some people may look at this and go, oh, well, this is clearly competition. There is one leaf and two uh, prairie dogs eating it, so they're going to be competing over who gets to eat more. Some people might say, oh, well, this is clearly one of our forms of symbiosis. They're both getting food together, so maybe this is mutualism. One is sharing with the other. All right, what about this? These two bucks are down, antlers are tangled together. What are they doing? Are they playing? Are they eating? Are they mating? Are they sleeping? What are they doing right here? Remember, in nature, all resources are limited. They are competing, yeah. Now, what is the most likely scenario that they're competing over? If you look around, I can see there's lots of grass, so it's probably not food. I can see that there is trees and this is some sort of field. So it's probably not space. So then what would be left for these two to be competing over? Keep in mind, all competition will occur over three things. It will occur over food, territory, or mates. Right. And if you can eliminate those first ones, then you know what's left. This is an example of what? Ecological interaction. And I am referring to the wolves and the carcass, not the two wolves to each other. So the relationship between the wolves and that carcass would be an example of what? And secondly, seeing these wolves have been a predator, they did predate on their prey. These wolves would be what kind of consumer? They're not an herbivore, they would be a carnivore. All right, what might these symbols represent? As we went through this unit, we hit some stuff, and one of them was all about the symbols. What do these symbols, well, symbolize? What was the community interaction that I talked about that we should remember based on the symbols? And most importantly, can you remember the name that has all of the options? Lots of people remember what parasitism, but what is the term that parasitism, commensalism, and mutualism all sit under? They are all forms of what? So this is all symbiosis. And if we take a look at these symbols and we do plus and plus, both sides are going to benefit what form of mutualism? Never mind, I did that one. What form of symbiosis is it? Mutualism. If we do a plus and a zero, so one side is gaining, the other side isn't gaining or losing anything, it all stays the same. That would be what form of symbiosis? Commensalism. The hardest one to remember. And then the easiest one, if one is gaining and the other one is losing, then we're looking at parasitism. So remember, here are our three different types. And it all just depends what those symbols are for which form we will be experiencing. Here is a field. And in this field, you can see there's a bunch of little trees growing. What ecological process is currently happening in this field? We see that these tall grasses are giving way, they're being outcompeted by this new population of trees. This is an example of succession. Now, succession can take two different forms. It's either going to be primary succession or secondary succession. On primary succession, it starts on bare rock, and then you're going to have your pioneer organism move in to start the whole process. Both of them will reach the same climax community in the same area. So, if you take a look at these pictures above, A, B, C, D, this picture is a picture of letter B. Now, judging this first block, would this picture diagram up here, would this be an example of primary succession or secondary succession? Is this bare rock succession or is it cleared land succession? Because that is the difference between primary and secondary. So hopefully, looking at that, you don't see any rock. That means that we would be looking at secondary succession. Now, as we start to get into our human impacts, this one would be which human impact that we talked about. Should be pretty straightforward. That's deforestation. Remember, we talked about forest fires as well. We did not cover pollution this year. And the reason that we didn't cover pollution is because you guys have been hearing about pollution since you were probably in fourth grade. So now here we are in ninth grade. I didn't feel like I needed to cover the idea that our garbage and our chemicals and stuff like that are dangerous to organisms in the wild. But it is still very much a thing. Now, this is a bit much, but what is this symbolizing? Which of our human impacts? Well, either global warming or climate change. Either one of them. It's a little bit extreme, but the idea is there. And then remember, we also did our talk about what were these other things that we could do in order to try to maintain the planet and, well, keep it around for a bit longer. So just keep in mind, those are all possibilities. Solar power, wind power, going into more efficient heating and cooling, things like that. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is all of the pictures that I've got there. That is the basis of all the questions, and thanks to the number of people that did not bother doing the quiz, I think that this is going to be a very good chance for you to go through and do that quiz for the extra practice. Is there any question that I can answer right now for people here? Your test is tomorrow. Remember, all Chromebooks need to be turned back into the school by the 17th, or they will start sending people out to come and get them. Plus, they're not going to work anymore. So make sure that those get dropped off, turned back in. I'll have more information about our little cupcake farewell as I understand more about it. And I hope everyone's doing great. Test tomorrow.